Hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Travel Marketing in a Click-to-Call World, Mobile Advertising Strategies to Drive Calls and Bookings. My name's Blair Symes. I'm the Director of Content Marketing here at Dialogue Tech. Before we get started, I wanted to go over a couple housekeeping items. If you want to tweet about the webinar, please use the hashtag TravelersCall. And if you're interested in asking any questions of any of the content that we go over, there's a chat box on your bottom left. Please feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. And Steve and I should have a little bit of time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. If we don't get to any of your questions, I'm happy to answer them via email afterwards. Also, I always get this question, so you can save your fingers and not ask. We are recording this webinar, and I am very happy to share that recording afterwards. I will email everyone who registered with a link to the recording. And if you're interested in getting a PDF of the slides as well, which is often a common request, just shoot me an email and I'll happily send those to you as well. So as I said, my name is Blair Symes, Director of Content Marketing here at Dialogue Tech, and we're the leading call attribution platform for travel and hospitality marketing. My special guest today is Steve DeMitt, who's Chief Revenue Officer at Dialogue Tech. We've got a full agenda, so we're going to start by going over some of the basic stats and trends that we're seeing for the travel industry around digital marketing, mobile marketing, smartphones, and call conversions. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tips that we're seeing in terms of paid search, display, Facebook, and other channels about how you can drive more of these call conversions and bookings from your marketing. Steve's going to talk about the importance of call attribution and some of the ways that the travel and hospitality marketers that we work with are using some of this call data and conversation data to measure and optimize performance. And throughout, we're going to give and show real-world examples of actual ads and stories of what companies in the travel and hospitality industry are doing in order to measure and optimize calls and bookings. So let's go ahead and get started. As I said, let's start with going over a couple interesting stats that I found around the role of smartphones and full calls in the traveler customer journey. So why is marketing so important in the travel and hospitality industry? Here's a recent report from Google that shows that when people look into booking either a hotel or a cruise or a vacation package, most of them, the vast majority, go in undecided about which brands they want to spend their money with. So, there's a tremendous opportunity for travel and hospitality marketers to influence this decision using digital marketing channels. And you can see the data bears this out, that travel and hospitality marketers, they get the message. In the travel year, they spent almost $5 billion in digital advertising. And by 2020, we're talking about a 68% growth to over $8 billion. So it's a tremendous amount of money being spent in the U.S. alone to drive bookings in the travel industry. It's extremely competitive, and there are definitely some best practices that you want to test, and we're going to go over some of those today. But keep in mind that over 50% of travel industry ad spend in digital is targeting smartphones and mobile devices. So we're going to focus on strategies that you can use for your mobile marketing specifically. And here's some data that recently eMarketer came up with just a couple weeks ago, which I found really interesting that I wanted to share. So when we're talking about mobile marketing and we're talking about how people research cruises, hotels, vacations, resorts, they're using their smartphones. Over 90 million smartphone users in the U.S. alone this year are going to use their smartphones to research travel. Now, when they do that, 48% of those people will not ever book on their smartphones. And you can see the data for 2019, there's going to be an even higher increase of 31% of more people will be using their smartphones as their primary device for researching travel, but still a great deal of them are not booking online on their smartphones. So it's really important to know that when people people are researching on their phones as their primary device, but bookings are happening in a variety of other ways. And one of those ways, the ways we're going to focus on today, is the call conversion. They're booking over the phone. Smartphones, the popularity of smartphones and mobile marketing targeting smartphone users, we're seeing the number of call conversions in the travel industry really take off. So Google had a study that shows that 44% of people who research travel on their smartphones are now booking by calling. That's an amazing statistic. And you can see just an example here. When people are researching on their smartphones and they're ready to request a quote from a cruise line or a resort, or they're ready to engage with you, they don't want to fill out a form with their thumbs on a small screen. It's much easier just to click on a call button and be immediately connected to a representative to ask their questions, book their vacations. It's much easier to engage directly via click to call. And you can see some other stats here which I thought were interesting. The higher the price point, the more likely someone is to call. So obviously, if they're talking about a cruise or a vacation or a resort, the higher the price point, the more likely someone will want to call first and have a conversation before they book. And the statistic below, even for hotels, 35% of all hotel bookings today are done either through a call directly to the hotel's call center or to the individual locations. So call conversions are playing a major role in driving bookings in the travel and hospitality industry. So I'm going to go through a couple channels and strategies for how to do that, starting with Facebook. So Facebook is almost, it's predominantly a mobile channel. So almost 1 billion daily active users on Facebook are engaging on their smartphones and mobile devices. And over half of people who use Facebook only ever access it on their smartphones. They never log in on their desktops or laptops or tablets. It's a mobile-only, smartphone-only platform. And you can see that's why 80% of people, advertisers on Facebook are 80% of the spend is for mobile. 80% of the ads on Facebook are for mobile. And the result on the right from all this mobile ad spend are call conversions. There are over 12 billion calls. There will be over 12 billion calls from Facebook to U.S. businesses this year, and that number is going to triple by 2019. So the numbers of call conversions from Facebook advertising is big already, and it's only going to rise. So how do you drive some of those call conversions and bookings from Facebook? So the main way that this is happening is really by getting people to click on your ad, visit your website, and then make a call. So we're going to go into a couple of strategies for how to do that. How do you get consumers to visit your site and call? One of the main ways through Facebook advertising is to make sure your ad messaging has the right incentives. So I've shown 3 examples here where the first is 20% off, receive a free room rate and 20% off. The second is a 4th night free. Well, the third talks about 50% off your second night. All great incentives. So someone is scrolling through their Facebook newsfeed. They're not actively looking to book a vacation or a room. So give them an incentive to click on your ad, visit your landing page, and call. Another great incentives would be the free Wi-Fi you can see in the last example. So these people, these are mobile ads, these people are smartphone users. There are a lot of incentives that hotels and resorts and cruise lines do that are mobile focused. So free Wi-Fi, free mobile check-in, free smartphone keys on their phones to open their doors. A lot of cool gadgets that work with mobile that hotels are offering in order to drive those bookings. And then of course optimizing your landing pages, as you can see on the bottom, making sure that there's a prominent click to call button, a prominent phone number they can call, making it a main call to action on your landing page to incentivize that phone call. Another option in Facebook is the carousel ad. So here's an example of one from Starwoods where the carousel ad is basically, instead of a single image and a single call to action, you can have multiple images and multiple calls to action. And Facebook claims that these ads have a 30 to 50% lower cost per conversion than single link ads. So it's definitely worth testing to see if this is a way to drive more conversions at a lower CPL. And another option, obviously, is the Call Now button. So Facebook offers local awareness ads. If you wanted to, you can have the Call Now button be the call to action. So if somebody clicks on the Call Now button in your Facebook ad, it triggers an immediate call either to your call center or directly to an agent or your hotel or resort property. Now, 30% of hotel bookings, on mobile devices are for either that day or the next day. So last-minute deals, next-day bookings are extremely popular on mobile devices. So this is one way to find those people and target them with your ad. So, for example, you can geo-target people who are traveling in the area of your hotel. You can specifically say, Facebook knows where they live, they know when they're outside of their home area, and you can target those people who are near your hotels with great last-minute, same-day, or next-day offers to incentivize that call from the call button. A great ad format is the app install or app engagement ad. So if you have an app for your hotel, resort, cruise line, whatever it is, you can run ads that let you to try to get people to install your app. And Facebook just recently came out with a new app event optimization targeting strategy where you can actually, instead of just targeting people to get them to install, you can find people that are more likely to actually use your app once they install it. You can pick different events that are likely to signal that. So someone who's likely to make a purchase in your app or view content in your app, you can select these to try to get your app install ads in front of the right people, not just people who are going to install it, but people who will actually use it. And they also have app engagement ads, as you can see on the right, where you can actually link directly into your app. So if somebody actually has your app already installed, you can target those people and link into that app with relevant ads. So a book now, for example, call to action for a specific property or vacation package or offer can go directly to that page where you can have a call now button to get them to convert by calling. So, just to wrap up a few ideas for Facebook, there's so many targeting options you can test and try. Life events, for example, if somebody recently got engaged, Facebook can target those people with relevant, wedding-specific or rehearsal dinner-specific ads, for example. Dynamic ads for travel, you can actually retarget people who have already visited your site and either called or didn't call. So if you know that somebody visited your website previously and has called, and they're more likely to call, you can show special ads with special language to those people, trying to get them to call again using call data. You can also create lookalike audiences, which enables you to, once you find out a targeting segment that works well for you, you can ask Facebook to find lookalike audiences that will enable you to find more people like that that can convert on your offer. It's a way of expanding your reach in Facebook. And lastly, there's the custom audience targeting where you can actually upload email addresses or phone numbers of people and then show them special ads or special offers. So for example, if someone fills out a request a quote form but doesn't end up converting, you can show them a special offer on Facebook, having them come back to visit your site, call you, and convert. So let's jump to display advertising and some tips to drive website visitors, calls, and bookings from mobile display ads. So why mobile for display and why smartphones for display? Well, 60% of digital media time now is spent on mobile devices. And so most people who are engaging digital media time is engaged in mobile. Most people are now either in an app or on a mobile browser. That's how they're accessing your digital content. 67%. That's why 67% of digital ads are now targeting mobile devices and smartphones. And as a result, you can see a huge increase in calls. 28 billion calls to U.S. businesses are expected this year from display ads. So display ads, not just a branding strategy, it is a way to actually drive conversions and bookings through calls. So how do you do that? Well, one way, of course, is to offer, not just offer branding ads and display, but offer, a compelling call to action with an incentive or an offer. So 33% of travelers say an ad with a special offer is the reason that initiated their booking. So, here's an example of a sense of urgency for a sale, 48 hours sale, having them act now. If they click on this ad, they go to a landing page where there's a prominent call us button and call to action to trigger a call. So remember, people are seeing your display ads either in their mobile browsers or in apps. They're not actively looking for your hotel or your cruise or your resort. So give them an incentive to stop what they're doing, click on your ad, and engage with you. Retargeting is huge on display. So if somebody on the left visits your site but doesn't convert, they don't call, or they do call but don't become a customer, you can then show them special ads retargeting via display. So here's an example from Sandals where they offer 65% off. You can retarget someone who visits the Sandals website with this offer, trying to get them to come back and convert. And you can have a prominent, as Sandals does here, a prominent click to call to get them to bite on your offer and call back and engage with your sales representative. So I do want to touch on one example for email and why email is such a big deal now in the travel and hospitality industry to drive conversions. So, first, email is read predominantly on smartphones and tablets. 66% of email is now read on mobile. So when you're talking about email, make sure your email is optimized for mobile. And that includes having a prominent phone number, a clickable phone number, within your ads. Here's an example from Silversea, which is a cruise line that I love, that's targeting me with a special offer, enjoying a $199 round trip fare, getting me to click in, and then having a prominent phone number right there for me to call and engage. I'm a past customer. They know that I'm likely to engage by phone, so they're making it easy for me by having a prominent call to action right in the email. But if somebody, if I decide to click in, they then have that same prominent click to call to action right there on the landing page. So they do a great job of optimizing to drive calls. The last channel I want to talk about before we bring on Steve is to cover a few tips about mobile search. Mobile search is a huge digital channel for driving calls in the travel and hospitality industry. You can see here over half of all searches now take place on smartphones and mobile devices, and 63% of all search ads now target smartphones and mobile. So search really has gone mobile. Search advertising, PPC and SEM have gone mobile. And the end result has been a huge increase, again, in call conversions. We've seen expecting to have 40 billion calls to U.S. businesses from paid search this year. And that number is going to increase to 61 billion by 2019. Huge numbers of calls of people who are searching in industries like travel and hospitality. And you can see that stat at the bottom, which is why paid search is so important. 60% of travelers say they always start their travel booking and shopping process with search. So how do you drive search conversions? One way actually is to use the channels I talked about before. There's a lot of research that shows that people who see your display ads or your Facebook ads, while they might not convert directly from those ads, they're much more likely then to run a branded search for you and then convert that way. So just by using display and Facebook ads, you could see a bump in the conversions you're driving through search. Another way, of course, is to create mobile preferred ads. So it's a simple click of a button, but Bing has some research that shows that mobile preferred ads get twice the click-through rate as desktop ads that are shown on smartphones or mobile devices. So, it's obvious now, especially in the travel and hospitality industry, that smartphones are the device of choice for research. So make sure you optimize your ads for smartphones. So what does that mean? It means speaking in the language of smartphones. For example, Sandals here says, book now from your mobile device. It acknowledges the fact that I am on a mobile device seeing their ad. They've got the call button, of course, which is extremely important when you're targeting smartphone users. They also have site links at the bottom that are mobile optimized, so making sure the links that you offer there go to a mobile optimized landing page, not just the main link, but all the site links you include as well. And I touched on it a second ago, but of course, use call extensions in all of your paid search ads. Extremely important for travel and hospitality. Google has come out and said that 70% of mobile searchers have used the call button to engage directly with the business. And even if they don't, there's still ads that show a call conversion. People will click on 8% more than ads that don't. So it's extremely important to use call extensions rather in your paid search ads. So how do you optimize some of the language to drive conversions from paid search? You can see the stats above. Mobile travel shoppers are looking for information on price. You know, they like online reviews, and they like to learn about amenities, and they're trying to book for hotels, resorts, cruise lines, etc. So, you know, test different language in your ads. For example, you know, the first one, get 2 for the price of 1. Call us now for that. You know, the second one has a link to special offers and packages. Stay longer. You know, receive a 4th night free. You know, test different offers to different people to see what works. Same thing with reviews, showing reviews in your ads, and then also having links to your amenities and mentioning them within your ad. So the fitness center or the pet-friendly rooftop steakhouse. Great ideas, great things to test to see what works to drive calls from the ad as well as visits to your mobile landing pages and then calls. A special one I wanted to test, AdWords actually has special hotel ads where if someone runs a search for a hotel, for example, here in Miami, these are the first listing on the left are actually organic listings. But if you click on one of those, you can then go and be shown paid ads for that hotel. And if you click on that, you can see examples where, you know, you can have a call button directly in your paid ads, or if you can have a call optimized landing page as someone clicks through. So I don't know if anyone on the webinar are actively using these now. I'd love to hear if they're working, but it's an interesting concept where it moves from sortable organic listings, but then the paid ad is shown once someone expressed an interest in a specific hotel. So targeting options for paid search ads to try for mobile, for sure. You know, RLSA or retargeting. You can tailor your ad language, the keywords you're bidding on, and your bids themselves for people who have previously, you know, visited your site and called or not called. You know, perhaps that shows that somebody's a better level lead, so you want to bid higher for people who are running searches on keywords, or perhaps you want to use broader keywords that would be more expensive for you to use usually, but if you can refine that targeting for someone who's already visited your site and called you, that might be much worth it for the bidding. Customer match is similar to what we went over for Facebook, but you can actually upload email addresses into AdWords, or Yahoo has this as well. I believe Bing does too, where you can you know, target people differently based on email address. So someone who has that email address who has requested a quote but didn't convert, you can show specific ads with a call extension, for example, bid specifically, maybe bid higher on those people, and run specific offers or incentives to get them to re-engage and call you. And of course, geo-targeting, you know, making sure, you know, when you're targeting certain properties, making sure you're using geo-targeting. Maybe you want to target people in windy or cold weather areas during the winter with special offers to your vacation or your Caribbean cruises, whatever it is. You know, geo-targeting is a great way to get people to engage with specific offers that are most relevant to them. So I'm going to hand it off now to Steve, where he's going to talk a little bit about, you know, now that you're driving all of these call conversions and bookings, what ways that travel and hospitality marketers are, you know, what data are they capturing around the call that's enabling them to accurately measure their CPL and improve their ROI.
Thanks, Blair. So Blair did a very good job of going through why this should matter. People are doing things. People are using the phone channel to have a human conversation with somebody from your company or a representative of your company to complete a deal as it relates to travel. There was a day when Mad Men was around when there was single advertising channels. You might have a magazine, you might have a TV show. You didn't really have to do multi-touch. You didn't have to do a thing called a customer journey because there was no such thing as a customer journey. But today, how people engage with you and your brand is a multi-touch solution. It is, they go to your website, they look at a mobile app, They can talk to people. They'll also go over the phone. The point being that today's technology gives way more power to the consumer, and they use all the different pieces of information to be able to decide what they want to do. But what we know is that when the thing they want to do, the service they want to engage in, the product they want to buy, is what's called a considered purchase in the mind of the consumer. It's relatively expensive, it's relatively complex, or they're going to do it relatively infrequently. They want to get confirmation that what they're doing is the absolute right thing. More often than not, that takes the form of a human conversation. And more often than not, that human conversation takes the form of a phone call. It is true in the travel industry. Blair's already gone through these stats, but I'll just hit them again, that even with every tool that's out there for people to book a hotel room online, 35% of hotel bookings are still coming through a call. People who search for these solutions on a mobile device, 44% end up calling. And you can think about it, it's because in their mind it's relatively expensive. It could be complex. They're not going to do it very often. It's a vacation. It's a special occasion. They want to make sure it's absolutely correct and not waste this opportunity. As a marketer, someone who's spending dollars to drive people to engage with your brand and then result in some booking of some kind of travel experience, if you are not taking into account the number of conversions, whether you are measured by CPL or by CPA, if you're not tracking or taking into account all the conversions that come over the phone, at the beginning, your CPL or CPA is just absolutely wrong. I don't mean that in a mean or pejorative way. It's just wrong. And so it's critical to do a baseline of what your true CPL and CPA is to start with. And then once you have that data, you can start to allocate funds in a way to optimize your marketing programs to actually drive more of the kind of calls that are the good kind of calls. How do you do that? You use call attribution software. Call attribution software is basically software that is a combination of either uniquely tagging URLs or having unique phone numbers in certain advertising campaigns that will allow a marketer to know which marketing activity, which landing page, which type of media, search, social, display, email, offline, which of those things was the genesis of the phone call that eventually led to a successful transaction. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means for call attribution software. So let's say you're measured by CPL. There's a whole lot of costs that go into that, and you take your total costs to acquire customers, you divide it by leads, and now you know how much cost you have per lead. If all you're doing is tracking the leads, in this case, if you only were tracking forums, and you only were tracking 4,428 leads from forums, and you spent $1.15 million to get that, your CPL is $260. In reality, when you baseline your activity using call attribution software and technology, you realize, oh, it wasn't 4,428 leads. It was actually closer to 10,663 leads because you had another 6,235 leads that came through calls. But your budget didn't change. You're still dividing it by the same number. So in reality, your true CPL is $108. That's a great piece of data to know. It's a great piece of data to know when you're in budget time. In my career, I had 6 years where I was a marketer. And it wasn't a month that goes by that somebody wasn't questioning my marketing results. When the numbers weren't good, the first thing they said, well, the marketing dollars must not be being spent right. I wish I could have known at that point that my results were way better than I thought they were. Once you do this baseline of know what the true CPL or CPA is, then it's time to optimize. What do you optimize on? You optimize on the data that call attribution software can give you. One, what drove the call? Which campaign? Which keywords? From what page did that call come from? Where were they before? Where were they after? Second, information about the call and the caller. You can get the caller ID, which can lead to a caller name. We can do reverse lookup and find those things. Where were they calling from? How long was the call? Was it the first time they called, or was this a multiple time they called? And lastly, now that they called, what did they call about? Was it the kind of call that you want? Were you spending dollars that drove a call that was a good call, or did you spend dollars to drive a call that was a bad call? Those types of information that you can get from a call attribution solution enables you to now optimize your program. So you've already shown that you were producing way more leads than you said you were. Your CPL is now down, but now, after 3 months of, well, that's great, and now they're going to say, well, what have you done for me lately? Well, now I'm going to optimize. How do I keep my CPL great? How do I keep fighting the battle to make my campaign still relevant? It's through this optimization of knowing what's actually driving things. The data is going to help you understand which channels are the ones I need to focus on, which ads are the ones I need to focus on, which keywords that I'm bidding on do I need to focus on, what content should I be focusing on, what should I do, what should I get rid of, which days of the week make more sense to heavy up my advertising versus not doing it, what time of the day, again, when do I spend and when do I not, and what locations. This type of information that you can get can help you know where to spend dollars to drive good calls and where to eliminate spend that's driving bad calls or not driving any calls at all. Once you have this data then needs to be consumed. It needs to be consumed so it can be acted upon. There are many tools out there today that I'm sure each of you is aware of and using now to optimize marketing activities today. You know how to optimize, whether that's through an analytics tool, Adobe, or DoubleClick or Universal Analytics. If it's just a bid management tool like Kensho or Marin, or if it is a A/B testing tool like Optimizely, the point being, you are using these tools today to make your performance better all the time. When you have a call attribution capability, you can also then push that additional data into that same tool and make better optimization decisions based on that. The next slide goes through an example of pushing this data into Universal Analytics. You can see here an example in the column called Dialog Tech Calls. You can now tie actual phone call conversions in against a particular campaign or an activity. And whether you're using Universal Analytics, again, or if you're using Adobe, it can be pushed in with an EVAR. If you're using DoubleClick, it can be pushed in with the Floodlight. The point being, whatever tool you're comfortable with, you can now get much better and broader data to make your optimization decisions. The next thing you need to do is figure out, okay, what actually happened on the call? Was that call a good one? Was it a call that should have been good but didn't turn out to be good? Was it a call that was bad and you don't want to do that anymore? So how do you do that? Well, you need to be able to record the call. By recording the call and then using technology instead of people to actually listen to those calls, you can find out information about what words the callers use. Did the people answering the calls follow the scripts? Are the promotions that you're wanting to use to drive higher conversion, are they actually working? did a call actually convert? And think of it as actually knowing this information. If the sales cycle is longer than one phone call, if it is one of these, it may take a few weeks. You don't want to have to wait for a few weeks to know if your marketing activities are actually driving the right kind of calls. Being able to get information very quickly about, yes, I drove the right kind of lead, I have every indication this should close, let me know that now as opposed to 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks later when it actually does close. A way to do that is once you record calls and you use technology, machine learning, etc., to transcribe those calls, you can then automatically put these calls into categories or buckets. You define which of the calls that you would define as a good call. You define which of the calls are calls that should have been good but didn't turn out to be good. You could bucketize them as these kind of calls were not sales calls at all. I was talking with the person who's in charge of all of the web properties for a major auto manufacturer. They said, I need to know when people call, I spend money to get people to engage with me, and they call for something as simple as hours of operations. Well, he says my website has failed because I should be able to tell you that. That's not a sales call, asking for hours of operations. But in this case, you can not only know what drove a call, but you can know, is it the type of call that you want? And once you know it's the type of call you want, then you optimize only on those activities. In this case, calls from new customers that result in a booking. You look at the paid search of keyword A, keyword C, keyword J, the Facebook of ad B and ad D, display of ad A and ad F, and email A and B, because that combination of 9 things tended to drive the calls that resulted in bookings. So you're not just blind. And now I know what drove a call, and now I know what drove a good call. Once you do that, then you can actually dig in further and look into what actually happened on the call to see if you can get even additional information. Are there certain words that are spoken on the calls that are the kind that you consider good? What can you get from that? Does that tell you you should be bidding differently? You should be looking at different things. You should stress those words in your content, because it tends to be a high percentage of people who go through the whole process, the whole customer journey, that end up where you want them to be, said or looked for certain words that you didn't know they were looking for. And that's critical to be able to continue to optimize your campaign. A way to do that is not only look at what was said, but then look within that conversation, use that technology to fast forward, so you're not listening to a 3 or 4 minute call. Let me fast forward into a call and only see where in that call these words were said. In what combination were these words said? What did the caller say? What did the person taking the call or the agent say? To know, again, how to optimize your activities. Now, we have a couple we have lots of customers, but we have 2 that we want to just highlight here. One is Hotels Corp. Hotels Corp is one of the largest resort developers. Well, it's part of Westgate Resorts, which is one of the largest resort developers. And they have done 2 things with us. One, they did that initial baseline. Let me know what my current CPL, CPA is now, because I don't even know correctly. So we started to track and help them do that, and then they began to optimize. Once they did the baseline, once they did the optimization, they saw an 83% increase in calls generated from their paid search campaigns, a 71% increase in bookings from paid search, and it decreased their cost per conversion by 10%. It's a holy grail. I was able to prove that I did more for less, and then once I did that, I even changed my programs to get more leads, and I reduced my cost per conversion. A very significant cruise line that someday soon we will put out in the case study with a name, has used us so far for the baselining. They are now in the process of optimization, but their baselining told them this, as they used call attribution software, that paid search actually produced 25% more revenue per call than an organic search, $2.50 versus $2. A call that was 7 minutes or greater had $5 of revenue versus $4 of revenue. And an average SEO call conversion resulted in a $2,800 booking, where the paid search was $3,000, which told them, oh my gosh, I know that paid search is giving me more. It's not that I don't want to do organic, but paid is important. And when I do paid, I get higher results. So I know that even without optimization, I know how much I could spend on paid and still end up with the same kind of result. Now they're going through the process of optimization to get these results even better. So the bottom line of all of this is that, like water always finds a way. It finds every crack, every place it can happen. The same is true of human conversation. If somebody wants to make a phone call because they want to be convinced and made feel comfortable about a purchase decision, they're going to. We know that's true in travel. The data shows that people will do this. The way then to take advantage of this as a marketer is to track that customer journey, know which people are calling, know what drives that call, knows what drives good calls, and the way to do that was with call attribution software and technology.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing case study. I mean, even think about it if you're a paid search marketer, if you know the value of what the end result is of a conversion, so you know that a call is worth $3,000 in revenue, just think about how that can better inform your bidding and your budget for what it is you're paying for a conversion. It's that level of insight that can really help you, optimize all of your marketing channels for what's actually driving, the most good conversions for the best CPL. So thanks a lot, Steve. That was, some amazing information. If you are interested in learning more about the technology that Steve talked about, or if you want to get on a call where we can talk about more best practices for driving calls and optimizing calls from any digital channel, please visit our website and give us a call, or you can request a demo online of the Dialog Tech platform, and we can walk you through all of the technologies that Steve covered. So thanks everybody for joining. We do have a minute or two for some questions. I do see we have a bunch here. If you haven't entered into the chat box, please do so now. If I don't get to your questions, I'm happy to answer them via email, within 24 hours of the webinar. So let me go ahead and just dig through these and ask a few. So here's a question. Okay, so this person drives calls into a call center that has its own marketing tools. So I think that's probably, or its own call center tools rather. I think that's probably pretty common. Do I need to integrate this call data and call analytics data with that contact center solution in order to do what you're talking about? So Steve, maybe you can answer that.
That's a great question. What we find is sometimes marketers have a very tight relationship with their sales channels, and marketers may have direct integration into whatever system a sales channel may be using, some CRM system, whatever it is. In that case, it's critical, as you do call attribution software, to be able to tie back or match back your marketing activities to an actual sale. If you're just about CPL, you can do that without the integration back into that. I drove a lead, and actually you can use the technology independent of the call center. But if a call center is using a very specific CRM system, it makes sense to integrate there if you want to get to CPA. More often than not, we find that marketers don't have a necessarily tight or great relationship with their sales channel, whether that's in a call center or the calls are going to a very distributed organization, maybe going out to a whole bunch of hotels or resorts where they're not using a common database to put things in. In that case, this is a call attribution is a perfect tool because you're able to get that information independent of whatever's done. The point is, call attribution software, the calls don't have to be necessarily integrated into the call center. It can be done independent of that. It's whether or not you're wanting to do CPL or CPA. CPL, you really don't have to integrate into the call center's CRM. If you want to do CPA, you do have to have some system somewhere that says this customer did convert, they did buy, here's how much it was, so you can tie it back. That example I had of a cruise line, that is a case where the marketers are sort of connected with the people answering the calls, and the people answering the calls were using Salesforce as their CRM system. And so the marketer is using the activities to say, yes, I know which things are driving the calls, but they also now know which of those activities drove an actual acquisition by integrating our data into Salesforce.
So I've got another question here. For the companies, the travel and hospitality companies that we work with, which channels are they seeing that drive the most call conversions? So I can go ahead and answer that. But it's, right now it's definitely paid search. So I think that makes sense. AdWords, Google has done an amazing job with all these ad formats that have call extensions in them. Someone who's actually running a search is actively looking for information on a hotel or a cruise line or a resort, whatever it is. They're much more likely to convert during that session by calling. But what's interesting is we're seeing, Facebook is actually seeing a nice jump. So while the search conversions are still higher in terms of calls, the percentage increase from Facebook is on the rise. So I think I touched on it before. You should definitely, even though one channel might work best for driving conversions, you need to don't just eliminate your spend on the other channels and focus on that. You should also definitely invest in Facebook and display ads in order to even if it's just for branding, in order to get people to run more searches for you. I've got time for one more question. What about, okay, this is a question about call-only ads. So I didn't cover call-only ads in my section on paid search. So if you're not familiar with call-only ads, it's where the only conversion path from an ad is a phone call. So there's a call extension there, but if you click on anywhere in the ad, it's going to trigger an immediate phone call from within the paid search results. The question is more about, is that a significant driver of bookings in the travel and hospitality industry? And to be quite frank, right now what we're seeing is it's not a very popular ad format for travel and hotels specifically. There are so many other options. It's better to have a call extension instead, because that way you can have an ad text that is more descriptive, that has other options, that has links and promotions for discounts or amenities. It's a much more appealing ad than the call-only ad. Call-only ads are huge in industries like insurance or financial services. Certainly they're big in industries like local services like plumbers or locksmiths, people who have an emergency need right away and want to trigger a call right away. They don't need to go to the website to hunt around for a phone number. But in travel and hospitality, so far at least, we're just not seeing huge numbers of some of the major advertisers using call-only ads. So thanks a lot, everybody, for attending. I hope you found the information useful. Again, if you want to learn more about what travel and hospitality marketers are doing to attribute and optimize call conversions, visit our website or give us a call. We'd be happy to get on the call with you and answer all your questions, and even show you a demo of Dialog Tech if you're interested. So thanks a lot, and we will see you next time.